letters can be helpful even with students that don't have a lot of letter knowledge. Let's take a look at the typical way we would do this. We would have the student say the word bin. I would say it, they would say it. Bin. Then we would separate the sounds. B, I, N. Okay, and then we would have them pick the letters that would go with those sounds. B. Say the sound as you pull the letter. I. N. Bin. Then they would write the word. Bin. B. I. N. The word is bin. Now, what if you have a student that doesn't know all the letters or hasn't had opportunity to really segment before and they're really struggling? Can you still use this kind of a resource? Yes, you can, and I'm going to show you some corrective teaching procedures for using this resource. So if I had the word bin and they didn't have a good handle on segmenting sounds, I would say this is the word bin. Say bin, 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 bin. Okay, what's the first sound in bin? The first sound in bin would be B. Now what if they picked this one? Instead of the B, they picked this one. I would say this is P. Find B. And I would move this one away. I would say find B. Bin. Hopefully they would pick the right one and say B. And I would have them touch and say B. Now what's the next sound in bin? You're not breaking it up. You're saying the whole word, elongating the sounds. So they have to segment the sound, not you. So bin. Do you hear the bin? And help them say the I sound. Can you find the I? Hopefully they would pick the right one. Bin. What's the last sound? Bin. Have them touch. This is Good job. This is, let's touch and say bin. Bin. Now, if they picked the wrong one, say they picked A instead of I, and I would say, this is ban. This is ban. Can you find that? Make it say bin. Have them pull it and say the sound. Bin. Okay, so if they make a mistake, we don't want to just tell them, that's wrong and this is right. We want to help them discover it by having them say the sounds, listen to those elongated sounds, and make the difference, make the change. So now, if they picked the wrong one, say they picked A instead of I, and I would say, this. So if this is bin, this is bit. You bit the apple. So again, we could do it with touching and segmenting. I like to use that Play-Doh for the extra sensory feedback. So we could do bit, b, it. But again, if the student is struggling, then we can also just go here and say, these boxes we're going to put bit. This is bin. This is bit. What sound changes? Hopefully they can find the sound that changes. So we're going to do B. And we're saying the sound as we pull it. B. We want T. This is N. Can you find the T? Bit. Good. Let's touch and say bit. Now we would write it after we did that. This word is bit. We're going to write it B. it, b, it. Okay, so when we're blending, we definitely want to blend it together, but we also want them to know what each individual sound is. So touch and say, b, it, bit, b, it, bit. Okay, when we're blending together and reading, we definitely want to use that continuous blending. B, we want to connect those, not b, it. But for reading, it would be bit. But we definitely want them to know that what each letter says. This says b, this says I, this says t, bit, bit. Okay, so we can go to the next one. It would say this is the picture of a pit, pit. So we would say pit. We could touch and say with the Play-Doh again. Put the Play-Doh out there and break it up. Again, some children do really well with this. Other children, they don't have enough experience, so you might have to skip this part until they get better at segmenting. You could do p, it. If they can't do it, you can help them do it. P, it. This is going to be p, it, pit. What sound is going to change? We have bit. We want p, pit. What sound is going to change? Hopefully they would tell you the right sound. If they don't tell you the right sound, you would say, if they chose this one, I would say, well, we have bit. We want p, pit. It has the same ending. What's going to change? The p. This is b, so we need the p. So we're going to find that and say the sound p, it. So we want p, it, pit. What word? Pit. Let's write it. P, it. Let's blend it. Pit, pit. And then the next one would be pat. So we would change that middle sound and have that sound. So what you're going to do is use this to help make those letter sound connections with your students. You don't have to wait until they know all of the sounds to start working and switching out different sounds, because this will build that up in them. By giving them a limited number of tiles to work with, you lessen the load and they're able to find it by listening to the whole word, elongating those sounds, and then they can pick out the correct sound by segmenting it. So they're doing the segmenting in their head. We don't want to do it for them. We want them to be able to hear it by guiding them through and hearing the whole word. And if they don't get it, say the word again and help them by pointing at the different places and using that feedback to help them make those segmenting decisions and then blending that word back together again. I hope this is helpful.